So hello everyone. Welcome to part 4 of my grant-funded project. I'm working on a sort of music video documentary about an important NASA space mission. I'm working with the Fresno Master Chorale. I'm also working with soprano Isabel Bayraktarian. And we'll be recording over at Maximus Media, which is one of the premier recording studios anywhere. So it's an exciting project. I got funding through the Measure P grant process. That's why you see the Measure P grant logo on the beginning of all these videos. That's one of the requirements. The grant requirement is that I produce the film and recorded version of this, formatted and suitable for use as a broadcast piece on PBS or public access television. And also that I have it available for like schools and civic organizations to enjoy. Any rate, down the road, of course, I want to perform this piece live. And so my live performance rig ultimately has to be capable of dealing with the music that I'm creating in the computer. And that's always an interesting process to consider. When I'm creating the music, I first and foremost look at what the music needs. What do I need to do with the music to really tell this story accurately, to draw everyone into the emotions that I want them to experience as they're observing images and animations of the actual mission. But ultimately, I want to be able to do this live. Even though I'm only required for the grant to produce the recorded version, I still want to be able to do this live. And maybe next grant cycle, that will be what we do, is figure out what we need to be able to mount some full-scale live performances of that. So my other music is still out there. You can go to my topics page in the description of this video. You can find all the links to, Bandcamp and SoundCloud, and over to my topic page, and you can enjoy the music I've already released. And last night, which happened to be Halloween, I was invited to play at a little gathering with my friend Matthew Embry. We both played some music for a small audience, and I had my first total and complete equipment breakdown right at the beginning of the show. Some of my control gear started acting up, and I wasn't sure why, and I was working around it, and it just got worse and worse and worse until the last piece of the night I was playing, and I got about a third of the way through it, and I just had to give up because everything was all over the place. So, what went wrong? Today, so far, I've been putting the rig back together, and I wanted to examine what the problem was, because it really boiled down to one singular control function that happens to be extremely critical. Now, my music is built on the sounds of a pipe organ, and I kind of call it augmented organ because I'm processing those sounds through a lot of digital effects processes. I'm also using looping, live looping, and to create certain rhythmic patterns, and it's very busy. I'm very busy either playing notes or pressing buttons and doing all of these things. And so the control equipment is just as important as the keyboards and the effects processors that generate the sound. So the live rig, basically, I have a laptop computer that is running a piece of software called Hopwerk, and I've explained that before, that Hopwerk is a pipe organ emulator system. The organ I have in that system is a big 4-manual monstrous organ that resides at the Pasadena Presbyterian Church, and some people I know went down and made samples of every pipe in that organ and then created this Hopwerk sample set that I can use as an emulation of that organ. Then the audio output ultimately goes through the effects processors where I do echoes and reverbs and things. It also has to pass through my looping system where I can take a pattern, play it, and then loop it so it continues on. Among the various things I have to do to make this all work is I have the two keyboards set up, and the main keyboard can be split. I can have two different or three or four different things going on that single keyboard by routing different segments of keys to different locations on the pipe organ emulator. And that system is pretty simple. You set it all up in the keyboard, and when I want to go from one to the next, one setup to the next, I have a foot switch that I hit with my toe, or I can turn the knob, but generally I use the foot switch. On the pipe organ emulator, on an actual pipe organ, you have little buttons underneath the keys called thumb pistons, and you have other buttons that sit above the pedal board that are called toe studs, and toe studs look just like this. They're basically just a big push button for your foot. And because I work in the organ industry doing repair and maintenance and playing classical music from time to time, I have a lot of spare parts laying around, and so I have a lot of these toe studs. And the thing I needed to do was develop a control system for Hopwerk so that I can emulate those pistons. And the way I've done it, I got turned on by my friend Scott Davis to a product called X Keys. And basically the one I have is a row of 16 what are called tack switches. And the X Keys actually output ASCII code, which is used on your computer keyboard. So when you hit the letter A or the number 5, a certain code goes out, and the computer interprets that as letter A or number 5. Hopwerk, by design, can respond to ASCII codes so that you can use the keys on your computer keyboard as various functions. You can use that to substitute for pistons or stop controls or whatever you see fit. So the X Keys is a really natural fit. I mounted it right on top of the SL88, my main controller, and it handles all of the functions for the preset stop combinations. Works beautifully, had no trouble with that at all. What I needed, though, is, most of the time both hands are busy doing something. My left foot's busy playing bass notes on the little pedal board, and so the only free appendage I have is my right foot. So I need a lot of foot controllers to do things. So you've seen this before, and we'll take a closer look at it. This is the Boss RC600. It's a multi-track looper. It's an 8-channel audio interface. It's also a MIDI interface, and you can use it to facilitate certain MIDI control functions. So on the back, there are all of the audio inputs and outputs, and then there's these two over here, which are for auxiliary switches, additional buttons, if you will. And I needed a next and previous function on Hopwerk so that I'm playing along and I need to go to the next stop combination. Maybe my hands aren't available to press the button if I'm on 2 and I want to go to 3. And so it's very convenient to have a little foot switch on the floor that will handle that next and previous function. So I built this. Now, ordinarily it would be a simple matter of just wiring the electrical contacts inside the switch here into the auxiliary input on the RC600, and voila, we've got next and previous after you set it up. However, Roland products, including Boss, want to see a normal closed switch. What does that mean? Normal closed means that the switch contacts are making contact when the switch is at rest. So, electrical current is passing through the switch when it's at rest. When you press the switch, the contact is broken. Now there's no electrical flow through the switch, and that's when the Boss product says, oh, you're wanting me to do something. So toe studs off of organs are normally a normal open switch. So no electrical current is flowing while the switch is at rest. And when I press the switch, that's when electrical current is flowing. So I needed it to do that in reverse. And there was no simple way to really modify these buttons, and they don't make them in the opposite direction. So I made this little box here, and this is there's a couple of relays in there, and I have a power source to run those relays, and the two toe studs were connected to the relays. The relays have both normal open and normal closed contacts, so it was really just a simple matter of wiring this output that connects to the RC600 onto the normal closed side. When we hit the relay, we trigger the relay with the toe stud. The relay fires. It breaks that normal closed switch. The RC600 is getting the signal it wants to see. Everything's hunky-dory. I built this thing, a couple of years ago, back when I was doing my pandemic Sunday morning shows. I had a simpler looper at that time, and I needed to use its auxiliary functions. So I built this and just mounted it on the organ, and voila, it worked beautifully. But what happened last night is all of a sudden, right from the beginning of the show, my next button, toe stud, was doing wonky things. It was skipping all over the place. I would hit it to go from, say, 1 to 2, and it would jump over to 8. I would then try to reverse that out by hitting the previous button several times, and it would jump to a blank spot. I was having to try and grab those push buttons that are on the SL88, and I just couldn't do that and keep the music, and it just was a nightmare. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and so, like I say, today I started looking this thing over, and I found a loose wire connection. There it is. And I tried to reattach it, and it wouldn't reattach. And that's when I realized that the little relays I'm using to make this thing work are not really solderable. The pin connectors are designed to go into a special type of socket. So I would either have to get those sockets or a different type of relays so that I could solder the wiring directly to the relay so that it'll function reliably. This is not a reliable system because the solder joints aren't really fully adhered to the pins that come out of the little relay box. And so this is just not a solid and certainly not a roadworthy setup here. I'd like to continue to use these toe studs because they're the right size and they feel right under your foot, and I'm used to them. So this has to be rethought. If I'm going to continue with the toe studs and the relays, I'm going to have to get a different relay configuration, find a circuit or something online to make that work, or I'll have to break down and buy the actual switches that Roland makes for their RC600 to serve as auxiliary switches. The thing I don't like about that is that they don't really come in a convenient format for me. And the other thing is they're kind of pricey. And but I need the system to work correctly. So that's the next thing I got to solve here. So at any rate, thought I'd share all of that with you. It's just part and parcel to doing experimental music and trying to create a big project for the public. I need the gear to work correctly, and when I find problems, I got to solve them. So when I settle on a solution here, I'll let you know. Next time we're going to be taking a closer look at some of the equipment I use to make my music, both here in the studio and live. We're going to take a more detailed look at everything. And the first thing will be to look at the Hopwork software that runs in the laptop. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.